Welcome to Second Take, the show that takes a look at the issues behind the news. The Transnet Rail Infrastructure Manager, or TRIM, released the much-anticipated network statement in December. Terence Creamer joins me to discuss what it is and whether it will be enough to facilitate the entry of new private train operators. Hi, Terence.
Hi, Chanel.
Who is TRIM and what is the network statement?
Well, TRIM's emerged from a sort of vertical separation of Transnet Freight Rail into an infrastructure manager, TRIM, and into an operating company known as TFROC. And it's a large part of the business. It's 14,000 employees, and that really focuses on the network and servicing clients like TFR or TFROC, the operating company, and now train operating companies that are private. And the network statement is really the framework which allows these operators to come onto the network. It sets the state of the network, it gives a state of the network, the capacity of the network, and it allocates slots to train operating company. And that has now been released. It was a draft form earlier in the year, and there was a toing and froing around the network statement with much unhappiness around the tariff. And in December, a final network statement was released, which now sets the sort of game in motion for the entry of third parties. But this is a living document, so it will be updated yearly every April.
As you mentioned, there was much initial concern about the tariff structure.
Yes, the tariff structure in the initial draft network statement was based on an allowable revenue methodology. Now, we know that well in South Africa because that's the methodology that NERSA adjudicates with when they look at Eskom's tariffs. And we know there's always an unhappiness around that as well, around the different components in the allowable revenue. It is a well-known, recognized methodology for setting tariffs. But that isn't the tariff methodology that was introduced into the network statement published in December. And came with much relief because the allowable revenue methodology was going to be a punitive tariff for train operating companies wanting to enter the network. This one is a differentiated tariff based on train length or train tonnage, depending on and also corridor differentiated. So it's much more palatable. It's going to offer a tariff entry for TOCs, as they call them, train operating company, that is something that they can live with. And it's now just a matter of getting these bids in and seeing what appetite there is in the market.
A process is now underway to seek bidders for some of the routes.
Yes, so the first deadline is 7th of February, which is quite soon. And basically it's very modest. It's 2.4 million tonnes that's been allocated across a network that's got 180 million tonnes theoretical capacity, which was a bit of a shock to the system because there's a view that the network had capacity for more. There's this target of 250 million as a sort of baseline target. So we're nowhere near that, and that just goes to show how poorly maintained and how the dilapidated state of part of the network is. So we don't have a big capacity for rail volumes or freight volumes, but the bidders are being called for. It's 7 slots across 5 corridors. Some of these are commodity corridors, like iron ore, chrome. Others are container corridors. So that is what is in the market, and there's specific weekly slots with certain train and wagon lengths that have been put into the market. We now have to see, is there capacity from the private sector to take that up? The response has been positive. I think there's been a lot of praise for Barbara Creasy, the Minister of Transport, and her role in getting a network statement that at least is attractive to TOCs. But now, do these TOCs really exist? Do they have the capacity? Do they have the locomotives? Do they have the wagons? We know that Transnet has this leasing company idea to make wagons and locomotives available potentially to TOCs, but whether that is palatable again to those private operators, they may want their own equipment or they may have different technology solutions. We'll have to see. So the line in the sand now currently is February the 7th, which I think is very soon. We may see some shifting there. Then there'll be an adjudication phase of about 60 days Then will be an announcement of the preferred bidders. And then obviously we know that dance where once there's a preferred bidder, they need to get their funding, everything in place. So that can take some months to get to what usually is called financial close. And if those initial slots are allocated, it's an allocation for 10 years, which is a good time, and with an option to renew. So this is really at the very, very start of something fairly big, but it's baby steps, 2.4 million tonnes, very small. And we have to see if there is actually uptake.
Thank you. That's the Second Take show for this week. Thank you for watching, and join us again next time for more news analysis. Also, don't forget to listen to the audio version of our Engineering News daily email newsletter.